He strips off his shirt. His skin is the colour and texture of vellum. A crisp stripe of hair runs down his belly. His nipples are ripe and dark as poison fruit, but he's so thin you could count the ribs under his skin, if only he gave you the time. He strips off his trousers, and she can see how hairy his legs are, his genitals, huge, huge. The last thing the old lady saw in all this world was a young man, eyes like cinders, naked as a stone, approaching her bed. The wolf is carnivore incarnate. When he had finished with her, he licked his chops and quickly dressed himself again, until he was just as he had been when he came through her door. He burned the inedible hair in the fireplace and wrapped the bones up in a napkin that he hid under the bed in the wooden chest in which he had found a clean pair of sheets. These he carefully put on the bed instead of the telltale stained ones he stowed away in the laundry basket. He plumped up the pillows and shook out the patchwork quilt. He picked up the Bible from the floor, closed it and laid it on the table. All was as it had been before, except that grandmother was gone. The sticks twitched in the grate, the clock ticked, and the young man sat patiently, deceitfully beside the bed in Granny's nightcap. Rat-a-tap-a-tap. "Who's there?" he quavers in Granny's antique falsetto. "Only your granddaughter." So she came in, bringing with her a flurry of snow that melted in tears on the tiles, and perhaps she was a little disappointed to see only her grandmother sitting beside the fire. But then he flung off the blanket and sprang to the door, pressing his back against it so that she could not get out again. The girl looked around the room and saw there was not even the indentation of a head on the smooth cheek of the pillow, and saw how, for the first time she'd seen it so, the Bible lay closed on the table. The tick of the clock cracked like a whip. She wanted her knife from her basket, but she did not dare reach for it because his eyes were fixed upon her. Huge eyes that now seemed to shine with a unique interior light, eyes the size of saucers, saucers full of Greek fire, diabolic phosphorescence. "What big eyes you have! All the better to see you with." No trace at all of the old woman except for the tuft of white hair that had caught in the bark of an unburned log. When the girl saw that, she knew she was in danger of death. "Where is my grandmother?" "There's nobody here but we two, my darling." Now a great howling rose up all around them, near, very near, as close as the kitchen garden. The howling of a multitude of wolves. She knew the worst wolves are hairy on the inside, and she shivered, in spite of the scarlet shawl she had pulled more closely around herself, as if she could protect her, as if it could protect her. It was as red as the blood she must spill. "Who has come to sing us carols?" she said. "Those are the voices of my brothers, darling. I love the company of wolves. Look out the window and you'll see them." Snow half caked the lattice, and she opened it to look into the garden. It was a white night of moon and snow. The blizzard whirled around the gaunt grey beasts, who squatted on their haunches amongst the rows of winter cabbage, pointing their sharp snouts to the moon and howling as if their hearts would break. 10 wolves, 20 wolves, so many wolves she could not count them, howling in concert as if demented or deranged. Their eyes reflected the light from the kitchen and shone like 100 candles. "It is very cold, poor things," she said. "No wonder they howl so." She closed the window on the wolves' threnody, and took off her scarlet shawl, the colour of poppies, the colour of sacrifices, the colour of her menses, and since her fear did her no good, she ceased to be afraid. What shall I do with my shawl? Throw it on the fire, dear one. You won't need it now. She bundled up her shawl and threw it on the blaze, which instantly which instantly consumed it. Then she drew her blouse over her head. Her small breasts gleamed as if the snow had invaded the room. What shall I do with my blouse? Into the fire with it too, my pet. The thin muslin went flaring up the chimney like a magic bird, and now off came her skirt, her woolen stockings, her shoes, and on to the fire they went too, and were gone for good. The firelight shone through the edges of her skin. Now she was clothed only in her untouched integument of flesh. This dazzling, naked, she combed out her hair with her fingers. Her hair looked white as the snow outside. Then went directly to the man with red eyes and whose unkempt mane the lice moved. She stood up on tiptoe and unbuttoned the collar of his shirt. What big arms you have! All the better to hug you with. Every wolf in the world now howled a prophylamion outside the window as she freely gave the kiss she owed him. What big teeth you have! She saw how his jaw began to slaver, and the room was full of the clamour of the forest Liebestod, but the wise child never flinched, even when he answered, "All the better to eat you with." The girl burst out laughing. She knew she was nobody's meat. She laughed at him full in the face. She ripped off his shirt for him and flung it onto the fire, in the fiery wake of her own discarded clothing. The flamings danced like dead souls on the Walpurgisnacht, and the old bones under the bed set up a terrible clattering, but she did not pay them any heed. Carnivore incarnate, only immaculate flesh appeases him. She will lay his fearful head on her lap, and she will pick out the lice from his pelt, and perhaps she will put the lice into her mouth and eat them, as he will bid her, as she would do in a savage marriage ceremony. The blizzard will die down. The blizzard died down, leaving the mountains as randomly covered with snow as if a blind woman had thrown a sheet over them. The upper branches of the forest pines limed, creaking, swollen with the fall. Snowlight, moonlight, a confusion of paw prints, all silent, all still. Midnight, and the clock strikes. It is Christmas Day, the werewolf's birthday. The door of the solstice stands wide open. Let them all sink through. See. Sweet and sound she sleeps in Granny's bed, between the paws of the tender wolf.